Hopefully you saw last week's video where the awesome Cultured Bucket bought 3 copies of Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon to give away to you guys. He's a guy from our Discord channel and he's a big fan of the channel itself, and it's awesome of him. The winners of those 3 codes then are Justin Scott, Tired Aiden and BC Russell. So congratulations to you 3. Originally he only bought 1 code and then I think he went out and bought 2 more just to give away, which is just awesome really. If you want to be in with a chance of winning a copy of Among Us that he's purchased for this week's giveaway, then just leave a comment down below and once again he'll pick out a winner. So thanks to Cultured Bucket, you are a generous fellow. Thanks to NordPass who has sponsored this week's episode, and thanks to the thousands of you that decided to follow the channel this week. If we can all pull ourselves away from Monster Hunter for 5 minutes, well actually probably more like 15 minutes, let's have a look at what the best games on sale are this week. Is your backlog about to grow once again? Well, let's find out. Let's start off then with one of my favourite Metroidvanias on the Nintendo Switch, and that's Guacamelee 2, or Guacamelee 2, not really sure how you say that. It's 60% off, taking it down to £7.19, which is an absolute bargain. I reviewed this one on the channel, absolutely loved it. You don't need to have played the first one, but it would help, and I would really suggest maybe buy them together because the first one's also 60% off at the moment. These are Metroidvanias, but they're one of the few Metroidvanias that have a co-op functionality that works this well. There's lots of different boss fights, loads of enemies to fight, and that happens almost within arenas, so the sides kind of lock off, you have your fights and then you move on. You can backtrack, go forwards and backwards, there's a mapping system. It's very funny and really well written, and it's just a whole lot of fun. There are a couple of DLCs for this as well, the Proving Grounds, and there's the 3 Enemigos character pack, and I think both of those are also on sale. So you could essentially buy everything there is to offer from this series for about 14 quid, which is an absolute bargain. And that sale goes on until April the 4th. Next up, for a stupid price of 89p, it's Flashback, an all-time classic side-scrolling platform adventure game that sure feels a tiny bit clunky in this day and age, but there's just no doubt it's an all-time classic for a reason. They have included a number of different things like post-effects graphics filters, they've remastered the sound and music, and they've included, and I'm not so sure about this one, but I guess it's there, a rewind function. So if you fall to your death, you can just rewind and try again. Very Mario. Probably one that's going to be most enjoyed by fans of the original, maybe played it back in the day, so aka old people like me. For 89p, you cannot go wrong. It's a 461 megabyte download, and that sale goes on until April the 14th. This week, we've been sponsored by NordPass. What exactly is that? Well, essentially, it's a password manager. You know when you go to log on to all those old accounts and things that you created 100 different passwords for, but end up having to reset your password because you totally forgot it and it just is long. Well, NordPass does all of that for you. You just have to remember one password for the rest of your life, which is called the master password. Now, my first thoughts on this were, is that actually safe? And the answer is, yeah, it's a lot safer than the ones that are built into your browser. If you're anything like me, I've been using those standard ones where it auto-completes all your information. NordPass uses what's known as zero-knowledge encryption, which essentially means that the provider don't even know what's in your own account. It's all completely encrypted. Now, this all might sound confusing, but essentially it means it's super safe, and I've been using it for a month and it has saved me on 2 occasions already from the irritation of having to try and remember what my mother's maiden name is. They have given us a limited time 1-year NordPass premium plan that gives you half price using the code that you'll find in the description. Thanks to those guys for sponsoring this video. It's another week where all of the Deponia games are on sale, which is great. These are brilliant point-and-click adventure games, absolutely hilarious. They're 90% off, so snap them all up while they're at this price. And they come from the excellent Daedalic Entertainment. You play as the doofus named Rufus, who is a poor chap from a junkyard, and yeah, he's trying to win over a girl and making a really shoddy job of it. It's got a really nice comic book art style, loads of ridiculous characters. It's just a really fun game, or I should say games. There's actually 4 of them on the Switch at the moment. The first one's priced at £3.59 in this sale, and the others are all £1.79, so you can buy all of them for like 6 quid, and I'd highly recommend doing just that. This one's a gig to download. It's going to take about 10 hours to complete, and you're going to have a lot of laughs, and it's nice and chill, and you can just take it at your own pace really. Absolute bargain, and it goes on until April the 27th.
Terrific. The rotten smell from Sector 9 isn't so disgusting today.
If you caught my review of Blue Fire, then you already know what I'm going to say. I think it's worth picking up at 20% off at its all-time lowest price. Don't be fooled by the visuals, it looks very much like a 3D Hollow Knight. You have this overworld area that you'll do quests and other things in, but you'll jump into these very specific platforming segments. They are optional in terms of how you complete them, or I should say when you complete them, because they're actually brutally difficult, but they're great fun. There's things like wall running, wall jumping, double jumps, instant restarts on the platforming segments, and there's loads of different weapons to find. And I guess really that overworld area is quite similar to Hollow Knight, isn't it? You've got those characters that don't really say much, they just make noises. But if you're going to take inspiration from a game, that's certainly a good choice, and they've done it quite well, unlike something like Gleamlight. So yeah, decent. 4.1 gigs to download. It's going to take you around about 15 to 20 hours to complete, and that sale goes on until April the 7th. I think there's one thing that we all agree on in the SwitchUp community, is that yes, sometimes games are released in bad shape on the Switch, and let's be honest, all platforms, but we do respect it when developers go away and spend time making it right. And developer Fallen Tree Games with American Fugitive are probably one of the best examples of this that we've ever seen. When it launched, it was horrible, performance was shocking, but the gameplay was clearly still good behind the scenes, but actually they've added loads to it since launch and improved that performance just such a lot. It's so well worth you giving this one a look in. It obviously borrows from old school GTA with that top-down style. There's an overarching story where you've escaped from prison. I've just spoiled it, but that's the start. And the reasons you're in there and exactly what's going on become apparent as you go on. It's an open world. There's speed trials and other things for you to do. Loads of different vehicles and side activities. That's just a lot of fun. This one has a 1.5 gigabyte download. Take you about 25 hours if you want to do absolutely everything. And yeah, release your inner Shawshank Redemption, escape from prison, and enjoy some old school action. That sale goes on until April the 13th, taking it down to £6.11. Bargain. Pumpkin Jack rocked up on the Switch, giving me all the medieval vibes from back in the day, and I believe it's from a solo developer. While you could say this is a slightly dated art style, I actually really like it. I think it's functional, it does the job, and the action's quite quick and decently fluid. You travel through a strange landscape filled with different creatures to fight, and there's loads of different combos and moves for you to learn. There are a few puzzles in here as well, nothing that's going to tax you too much, but enough to make a nice enjoyable little distraction between fights. It would have been nice if he'd have managed to cram in co-op into this one, but it is a single player only experience. But yeah, if you're after a old school style adventure title, then you might enjoy this. It's 34% off, taking it down to its lowest ever price, and that goes on until April the 16th. Vigil is another game that falls into the category of a released in quite a bad state, and I think we've revisited it twice and it's improved both times. I'd say it's worth it at the moment. It's 25% off, taking it down to $16 or your regional equivalent, and you can probably tell the type of game it is just from the visuals. It's a Metroidvania, but it's also an adventure title with some amazing boss fights. Yes, it has some kind of Souls-like elements to it, but not a huge deal. I wouldn't say this is as hard as something like Salt and Sanctuary, but it's got a great soundtrack, decent combat, and some nice weapon choices as well. It's got a bit of a blood-stained feel to it. I think if you like that series, you might enjoy this. It's got a 5.2 gigabyte download. It'll take you about 25 to 35 hours to do everything. And yeah, that sale ends on April the 11th. Next up, we've got one that I really enjoyed when it came out. It's called Die for Valhalla. It's a hack and slash beat 'em up for up to 4 players locally through co-op, and it actually offers 2 modes. You've got story mode, but then there's roguelite mode as well. Roguelite mode generates smaller worlds featuring a slightly more difficult learning curve, as well as permadeath. You'll be unlocking about 10 different Viking clans, and there are 7 different classes to play as. And there's a bit of RPG in here as well, as you can use different skills. There's 80 of those to find. And yeah, I really enjoyed this, and it was nice that they included little things like a deathmatch mode, so that when all else fails, you can hack each other to bits. It's got a download size of 2.1 gigs. And yeah, that sale goes on until April the 4th. 80% off. Absolute bargain. Nice to finally mention this next one, and it's Party Hard 2. It released at a time where we just didn't get a chance to cover it, and I enjoyed the first game, but this one kind of dials everything up a notch. It's a similar format where you go in and you've got different objectives to complete, much of which involves killing many people or triggering strange events happening. But this time around they included 2-player co-op, which takes a bit of getting used to. It feels a bit odd at first, but actually is a whole lot of fun if you've got someone of like mind and who is able to play very cooperatively. Now, this time around, it's also got a touch more storyline, but the whole thing is totally insane. And well, you kind of expect it really from this series. It's got great music. I like the different environments. There are 4 different playable characters that have different styles. It's got a great soundtrack, as I say, with 27 different tracks. And there are 14 levels to work your way through, including 2 boss fights. Yeah, I'd say it's a better game than the first one, but that's also on sale at 50% off. So you could potentially get them both. But if I had to pick one, I'd buy the sequel. Now this sale only goes on until March the 31st, so you have to be quick if you want to pick it up. Over in the US side then, we've got to give a shout out to Ashen, which is at its lowest ever price. It's 65% off, taking it down to $13.99. That's a real bargain. Now this is going to be for fans of Souls-likes, but there's a really nice story that runs through the whole thing, and the combat's decent. Now the interesting thing here is that the story itself comes from the fantasy author Mark Lawrence, who wrote the Broken Empire trilogy. And yeah, he worked closely with the development team, Aurora 44, to make that narrative just really enjoyable. And it's also nice to see that they've brought the DLC across and that is also on sale. That's 65% off. It's called Night Storm Isle, and it adds a lot to the game. I'd suggest picking them both up together. That would be around about $17.50, so still a real bargain, and certainly worth adding to your collection if you're a fan of this genre. It's 4.9 gigs to download, and there is an online co-op mode, but it's one of those really annoying convoluted systems. I don't know why they do it, so it's not that easy to join a friend. That sale goes on until April the 8th. I haven't mentioned any of the 2K games because they always get mentioned, but they're on sale at the moment until the 1st of April. Things like XCOM, Borderlands, they're well worth your money. But now is the time where we look at 2 games that you should avoid because their mere presence on your Nintendo Switch will probably make your Joy-Cons drift as they try and get away. And first up then, it's the legendary Garfield Kart Furious Racing. It has no passion or personal flair of its own. Everything about it is mediocre. I get it, it's a game for kids, and look, your kids might enjoy it, but let's be honest, there are much better kart racing games out there, and I'm guessing it must be really difficult to make a good kart racing game because I'd say probably 4 out of 5 of the ones I've played have just been naff, and I'm not a fan of this one. So personally, I would say avoid it or go for something that's actually decent. Not naming any names, just steer clear of Nickelodeon Kart Racer. Finally, one that's had a mention before, and it's getting a mention again because I was scrolling down the eShop and the annoying face just stood out to me, and I thought, yeah, you're going down this week, my friend. And it's Ari and the Secret of Seasons. This could have been really nice. It was a nice concept, but it just goes to show that a 3D adventure title is really tough for an indie team to do well because everything about it's clunky. Movement is clunky. The world design is inconsistent. There's some incredibly dull questing here. Nothing feels accurate when you're jumping around and doing other things like platforming. And yeah, it's a shame. I would have liked to have liked this game, but unfortunately I loathed it. So yeah, I'd suggest staying away from it unless it goes on 100% sale, and then that would be remiss of me to suggest. But that's it for this week. Let's all go back to playing Monster Hunter. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks again to Cultured Bucket for the free copy of Among Us for this week. And leave your comments down below and let me know what you've been playing. I think hopefully I already know. And yeah, great to see so many people joining our Discord channel. And I know the Lagombi population of the world has drastically reduced. For all things Switch, thanks to our patrons. You guys are amazing and support us each week and month, all the time really. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya!